Welcome to another episode of Barella Family Adventures. This time we explore Arizona near the Colorado River and get lost in a restricted military zone. Our trip was initially delayed by the install of our 8 kilowatt diesel heater. A 1-hour job ended up turning into a 13-hour job, and we pretty much buttoned up right around 9 p.m. This forced me to leave our Pathfinder in the trailer hooked up in a parking lot behind us, but we rose early, packed up. The dog was obviously impatient and pretty much waited in the truck while we packed and just watched. But we headed out quickly and we were able to hit the road and make pretty decent time. It was about 4 hours to our spot in Arizona. Initially we were going to go down to a different area, but a bridge was out. So Scott was able to find us a spot in Ehrenberg, or just south of. You get off the freeway, hit the roundabout and head south. Setup was pretty easy. The spots are relatively flat. There are essentially some 4 to 8 inch boulders in there, so you do need to be careful of that. But overall, spots were very level, very easy to set up, and it was quick work as always. I gotta say, every time we set this trailer up, it does get faster and faster every single time. I don't have any problems with the pull. I did make some changes with the way propane lines are hooked up. Just as fast as we got there, it seemed that the sun was setting pretty quickly. If you've never gone camping in the desert, I highly suggest it. When you're out there and there's not a cloud in the sky, you do not get a better view of the stars anywhere else.
We had the first night with the heater. It's kind of hard to see or hear. But you can hear slight ticking from the fuel pump. It's really quiet and it got really warm on the inside. I don't think you can see it, but the stars are amazing. Good night.
Now, the way the area was shaped, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, the red is actually restricted area. That is where government space exists. Our campsite was up here towards the north, and you can see this main road that I'm turning right on right now. We followed it all the way south, or not all the way south, but about halfway down this road and then cut across right around here. Neat trails, but you can't really avoid being on the restricted land. I do recommend you stay on the trails. There was unexploded ordnance signs all over the place, so we want to make sure that we're not missing anything.
The world seems small. We can sit together. It's so beautiful, you and me. We meant to be in the great outdoors, forever free. Sometimes you need to go and take a step back to see the truth around you. From a distance you can
I don't care who you are. Something about the desert, being able to out in the middle of nowhere, traversing kind of anywhere you want to go, you can't help but be romantic about the whole thing. In this case, we're heading west towards the Colorado River before we hit this ravine here. Right before we get there, it wasn't terribly technical, but the gentleman I was with, Scott, hasn't really done a whole lot of off-roading his truck, so offered to go first and walk it. Pathfinder's not exceedingly capable, but it holds its own, and it's always fun to be the first guy to go through.
in the great outdoors, forever free.
people that always ask, why bother? Why do you go out there? What is it that you're looking for? And the answer is, I don't know. The adventure's the draw. I love getting out there with my wife and my daughter and the dog. But for me, it's finding that unknown. It's what's around the next corner. It's trying to make sure I don't get stuck in that same groove, the lost and ultimately empty expanse of I don't know what the hell's around the next corner. So we wanna make sure that we don't lose that. Now on this adventure, we caught something pretty cool. If you can kind of look in here a little closer, there's actually a pack of deer running across the road. Don't always get to catch something cool like this. Sometimes it's just the view you get to enjoy, but in this case we saw about 6 or 7 of these guys running up through the field. Pretty neat to catch. Don't always get to see that. Now, at this point, you would think the adventure is kind of coming to a close. We're hitting our main road, and we're pulling up into a gas station here in a moment. But Scott actually headed back towards camp to go check in with the wife, and Nicole and I decided we wanted to check out some of the other trails that were available to us. There was some conflicting information on what trails we could or could not take. Some of it was green areas, some of it was a red government area I discussed earlier. Ultimately, we just kind of went for it and found some trails to really follow on. Now, as we cut back through this main road up here where the gas station was, we were able to actually cut across this main road and get into this green section here to follow this large loop. We explored several trails and ultimately had to end up circling back around. The trail actually didn't go through the green part. It actually ended up dumping us right back out into the government space. And ultimately we had to rush against timeline to get back. As you can see in here, this drone footage, we ended up having to barely get back before sundown. And let me tell you, I was a little nervous about that because although this trail right here that you guys are looking at is just a simple fire road, some of these trails are a little bit gnarly, and unfortunately my GoPro was off the entire time. A sigh and near victory feeling fell over Nicole and I as we pulled back into camp. A little 4-hour excursion around the middle of absolutely nowhere with no cell reception and no proper GPS signal. Definitely had us on the ropes. Didn't really know where we were going. As they say, though, that's when the adventure begins. Definitely was ready to get out of the car. Been shaken to death over probably about 37 miles worth of some gnarly trails, but super happy about the day. Had a great time, but it's time to kick back, crack a beer, enjoy some good food, and let the stars come over. The following morning we woke up quite early, packed up camp, and headed out. The week obviously presenting itself fairly quickly as Sunday came to an end. With the Black Series Patron all packed up and in tow, Nicole and I piloted the Pathfinder back down the original road we came to, with Scott kicking out some really cool drone footage as we left, heading over to the gas station just to fill up one last time before the long haul back to Los Angeles. And that concludes the Barella family adventures. Thanks for hanging in.